Andorra is ruled by a co-principality.
Okay,
Emmanuel Macron in France it's technically a prince in
No,
Andorra.
but
And then in Spain they have a bishop, and they are supposed to rule together. It's really like more of a formula.
I'm glad you had a great vacation. We all love that for you.
Yeah.
We got to shoot the show.
What show?
Welcome to The Breakout. I'm Aaron Mehta.
And I'm Lee Farron, back from vacation so very sadly.
Yeah, we're really sympathetic. Okay, so this week, the big thing that we're tracking is actually coming at the end of the week. Friday, November 7th. That's when Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is gathering leaders from across industry as well as the Pentagon's acquisition offices to National Defense University, and he's going to give a big speech that's being billed as about acquisition reform.
How the Pentagon buys everything it buys. This is something the Pentagon's been signaling really since this administration came into power. They want to change the way the Pentagon does things. They want to be faster, more nimble, have more sources. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what actually comes out of this. We have a little bit of hints. Our friends at Politico first reported, and we've since confirmed, that the DSCA, the Defense Security Cooperation Agency, which handles foreign weapon sales, is going to move from the policy shop to the acquisition shop. That's something industry has long asked for, because they say, hey, we just need people who know how to actually get these sales through and turn into more of a kind of a process situation. But otherwise, we just know there's going to be something. Now, there's, as you said,
shake up and organizationally, we think?
Yeah, so there have been hints and stuff that's come out. So we know from comments from the Army Secretary, there's going to be some sort of shakeup of the PDOs coming. That's likely to be announced in this speech. We reported a couple months ago about the possibility of creating czars to run specific Navy and Air Force programs. Those would report to the Deputy Secretary of Defense, Stephen Feinberg.
Love a good czar.
Love a good czar. That could be announced during this speech. We don't know fully. It's just going to be a very, potentially important from both the policy standpoint, and then potentially very interesting from watching the crowd standpoint.
I was going to say, like, the policy stuff, obviously we're going to cover that like minute by minute. The reaction from the crowd is going to be interesting. This is going to be way different than the speech in front of a bunch of uniformed generals who kind of cannot clap, can't applaud, can't laugh, or they're not supposed to. They don't want to show any political bias. This crowd is defense CEOs, big primes, smaller companies, startups, but civilians.
Yeah, and they want to show, hey, we're with you, because these are the guys who signed the checks. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if there's one CEO who jumps up and starts clapping for everyone else, and the other CEOs try to match them. It'll be interesting to see the kind of applause lines, how people react, how the primes react versus some of the smaller companies we expect to be there. It's going to be great people watching, if nothing else.
Well, it'll also be interesting because the policy changes might benefit some groups more than others. So we'll see who applauds for what. We could get some hints as to how the industry is feeling about things.
Exactly. So obviously we'll have coverage when that happens. Again, that's Friday in the afternoon. So we'll be on top of that. When we come back, Mark Pomerleau is going to join me to talk about what is going on at CYBERCOM.
What is going on at CYBERCOM?
At Leonardo DRS, our agility helps bring the ability to dominate in any scenario, on any platform, helping our warfighters accomplish the mission and get home safely. Leonardo DRS, our agility, your advantage.
We're joined now by Mark Pomerleau. He's our cyber reporter. Mark, we wanted to talk about a story you put up earlier this week about CYBERCOM and the fact that it's been about 7 months since we had anybody formally leading it.
That's right, Aaron. As a matter of fact, earlier this year, the administration fired the current commander, General Timothy Hawk. Since that time, there's been no formal name that's been submitted to the Senate to lead that organization. A few names have been floated by the department, but were ultimately axed by the White House. So we've had 7 months now without a formal leader or anybody even submitted to the Senate to take over that role.
Yeah, it's a pretty unusual gap for a co-com for sure. Obviously, of course, there's an acting in there because there's always an acting, but you talked with, I think it was 8 different sources about this, and they all seem to be in agreement. Enacting isn't enough for a position like this.
Exactly, yes. As a matter of fact, enacting doesn't really have the same authorities bestowed onto them as a Senate-confirmed 4-star leader of an organization of this caliber. And so some sources described it as autopilot. They're really kind of maintaining just a status quo of what's going on currently. Representative Don Bacon, who's the chairman of the Armed Services Subcommittee that covers cybersecurity, an Air Force veteran himself, who personally knew General Hawk when he was serving, had some harsh words and called it heartbreaking to see what was happening at the United States Cyber Command and the National Security Agency.
Yeah, and of course, CYBERCOM is co-hatted with the NSA, so there's an impact there as well. Now, the people you talked to said, this probably won't impact ongoing operations. That's kind of just as it is, but big picture changes, acquisition shakeups, that kind of thing. If somebody walks into the room and says, hey, I want to change a whole bunch of things, other people might look at that guy and say, he's not really the guy for too long. He doesn't have the juice to do this.
That's right. I mean, while they do have, the respect of the current folks that are in the position, there's just going to be a hesitance to take big swings on major initiatives. CyberCom has a lot of things going on. CyberCom 2.0, which is really this holistic push to change the way that it operates. It's force generation, it's acquisition. It's still a relatively new organization, only 15 years old.
That's right.
So they're really trying to look at the future of how this organization moves. And issues like that are going to be stalled with an acting and not a confirmed 4-star leader.
All right, well, I definitely think people should go to the site and check Mark's story out. And speaking of the site, you can go there and like and subscribe to The Breakout to get it delivered directly to you. Mark, there's other ways to find us.
Yes, your favorite place to get podcasts. Check us out.
Love the enthusiasm, Mark. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Aaron Mehta.
I'm Mark Pomerleau.
We'll see you next time.